The alarm shrieked through Nexus Station's corridors like a wounded beast, red emergency lights bathing everything in crimson panic. Officer Mira Voss had hit that alarm herself, her hand still trembling over the console as her heart hammered against her ribs. Pop, 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 pop. She'd heard it clear as day. Kinetic weapons fire. Had to be. Nothing else sounded like that in the sterile environment of a space station, that distinctive percussion of projectiles being discharged. 20 years in station security had trained her ears well. Too well, perhaps. All personnel, this is Officer Voss. We have possible hostile fire in Section 7 Delta. Station is now under Code Crimson lockdown. All civilians to emergency shelters. Security teams, Alpha through Gamma, converge on my location. Her voice remained steady even as her mind raced through scenarios. Pirates? Extremists? Some fool smuggling weapons through customs? Section 7, Delta was the diplomatic quarter, home to ambassadors from 40 different species. If someone was shooting there, the political fallout would be catastrophic. The pop-pop-pop continued, irregular but persistent. Definitely projectile weapons. Had to be. Mira grabbed her pulse rifle and advanced down the corridor, her boots barely whispering against the deck plates. Behind her, she heard the thunder of Security Team Alpha arriving. Their heavier armor clanking. Good. Whatever waited ahead, she wouldn't face it alone. I'm picking up no energy signatures, Lieutenant Park whispered, his scanner glowing pale blue. No plasma discharge, no laser coherence, no electromagnetic spikes. Kinetic weapons don't leave energy signatures, Mira hissed back. That's why they're still dangerous. Pop, 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 pop. Closer now. Just around the corner, near the Vrixian ambassador's quarters. Mira's mind conjured images of assassination attempts, of delicate peace treaties dissolving in gunsmoke. The Vrixians were a proud species, their cubs recently allowed to accompany their parents on diplomatic missions for the first time in their history. If something happened to those cubs, she held up 3 fingers. 2, 1. Security Team Alpha rounded the corner in perfect formation. Rifles raised. Tactical lights blazing. Mira was right behind them, her weapon tracking for targets. What she saw made absolutely no sense. Crix, the youngest Vrixian cub, barely 4 standard years old, with silvery blue fur that caught the station's lighting like starlight, sat in the middle of the corridor. The little creature was surrounded by sheets of something translucent, covered in small raised bumps, and Crix was systematically pressing these bumps between tiny clawed fingers. Pop. The cub's enormous eyes widened with delight, ears perking forward with pure joy. Pop, pop, pop. Stand down, Mira barked, even as confusion crashed over her like a wave. Weapons down. It's... What in the 7 hells is that? Lieutenant Park lowered his rifle, staring. Crix looked up at the assembled security team with an expression of blissful innocence, then held up the sheet of bubble wrap, a material Mira recognized from old Earth cargo protocols but hadn't seen in decades. Most species used molecular suspension fields now for shipping protection. Pop? Crix squeaked hopefully, demonstrating by pressing another bubble. The sound echoed through the corridor like a gunshot in a cathedral. Behind the cub, the door to the Vrixian quarters slid open. Ambassador Thexara emerged, her adult fur a deeper blue, her diplomatic robes immaculate despite the station-wide panic her offspring had caused. Officer Voss, the ambassador said, her translator rendering her clicks and whistles into perfect standard. I apologize for the disturbance. Crix discovered this material in a shipment from Earth that arrived this morning. We were unaware of its acoustically alarming properties. Mira holstered her weapon, feeling heat creep up her neck. Behind her, she could hear Lieutenant Park trying desperately not to laugh. Security Team Alpha shifted uncomfortably, their tactical formation dissolving into awkward standing. Ambassador, we thought, Mira began. Pop, 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 pop. Crix had found a particularly large section of bubble wrap and was now attacking it with both paws, tiny claws working overtime. The cub's tail wagged frantically, and small chirps of delight accompanied each successful pop. Yes, Ambassador Thexara said dryly. We have attempted to explain that this behavior is causing concern. Crix does not understand why the pop bubbles must be stopped. The concept of alarming sounds resembling weapons fire is not translating well. Mira knelt down, bringing herself to Crix's eye level. The cub paused in its bubble-popping campaign, head tilting curiously. "Hey, little one," Mira said softly. "Those pops sound like something scary to humans. Something dangerous. Do you understand?" Crix's ears drooped. "Dangerous? But pop bubbles fun." "I know," Mira smiled despite herself. "But they sound like boomsticks, like weapons." The cub's eyes went even wider. "Weapons? No. Crix, good cub. No weapons." The bubble wrap was dropped immediately, tiny paws raised as if in surrender. Mira's heart twisted. No, little one. You're not in trouble. You didn't know. But maybe pop the bubbles somewhere quieter? With the door closed? Crix considered this gravely, then nodded. Pop bubbles quiet. Crix understand. A pause, then hopefully. Can still pop? Yes. Ambassador Thexara interjected with what Mira was learning to recognize as Vrixian exasperation. You may still pop, but inside, with the door sealed, and perhaps less enthusiastically. This seemed to satisfy Crix, who gathered up the sheets of bubble wrap with reverent care and scurried back into the quarters. The door hissed shut behind the cub. For exactly 5 seconds, there was silence. Then, pop, 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 pop. Even muffled by the door, the sound was unmistakable. Lieutenant Park finally lost his battle and started laughing. Within moments, the entire security team had joined him, tension dissolving into relief and absurdity. I'll cancel the code Crimson, Mira said, trying to maintain some dignity even as her own lips twitched. And perhaps we don't mention in the official report exactly what the hostile fire turned out to be. Ambassador Thexara's translator somehow managed to convey profound gratitude. The Vrixian delegation would be most appreciative, though I suspect this incident will become legendary regardless of official reports. She was right, of course. By the next morning, every crew member on Nexus Station had heard about the Great Bubble Wrap incident. Crix became something of a celebrity, though the cub was now only allowed to pursue pop bubble activities in designated soundproof areas. Mira filed her report carefully worded to mention acoustically similar materials and cultural misunderstanding, and tried to ignore the knowing grins from her security team. But sometimes, late at night when the station was quiet, she could still hear it. Faint but persistent, filtered through walls and corridors and sealed doors. Pop, 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 pop. And despite everything, Mira smiled. Some threats to station security, it turned out, were just too cute to stay mad at.